New Zealand has been in the news a lot in recent years as a place for high net worth individuals to go, to protect their assets, to have a plan B as a place to live, and even to get a citizenship. And we've heard from a number of folks here at Nomad Capitalist who are interested in moving to New Zealand. But New Zealand is not without its downsides. And in this video, I want to share a few reasons why you might consider somewhere else besides New Zealand, and I'm going to give you 5 alternatives. Hi, I'm Andrew Henderson, and if you'd like to learn how our Nomad Capitalist team can help you create a holistic offshore plan, you can learn more at nomadcapitalist.com. Now let's talk about New Zealand. My personal philosophy in my own life is I like to be in vibrant, active places. I like to have a lot going on. I like to be in big cities, and New Zealand simply doesn't offer that. So for me personally, New Zealand isn't a place that would interest me. Now, that said, I understand why it would interest a lot of people. The typical person who comes to us who inquires about New Zealand and suggests that that could be part of their plan is typically in their 40s or maybe their 50s. They're certainly almost always married, often have children, and they point out the tranquil lifestyle. It's far away from the rest of the world. You don't have all kinds of madness and chaos going on. You've got a pretty affluent group of people that are isolated down there in the southern hemisphere, and they just point to a lot of different benefits of why New Zealand could be interesting. Now, from a tax perspective, certain people can also benefit from moving to New Zealand. Things like no gift tax. There are a lot of kinds of taxes that New Zealand doesn't have that many other similar countries like the US or the UK or Australia would have. And so New Zealand does make sense from a tax perspective for some people as well. But for the average, 7, 8-figure entrepreneur who has a business, who has certain kinds of active investments, New Zealand does have a tax exemption for a limited period of time. It's not super duper straightforward. There is some planning involved, and there's nothing wrong with planning. But from my perspective, New Zealand is expensive to get into, not on just on an actual basis, but compared to a lot of other places. New Zealand rejects, by some measures, almost half of the applications. We helped someone recently who spent a long time waiting in line in New Zealand only to have problems. And this is not a guy from some far-flung country. He was American. And so the idea that, I'm an American, they'll just accept me because we speak the same language, doesn't even always play true. And so, for me, New Zealand, considering the price, considering the value, considering your ability to get in, considering the path to citizenship and the requirement to be there, and all the different requirements, to me, is a bit overpriced. And so I'm not here to talk anyone out of New Zealand, but I think that it's worth having some alternatives. Some of these you may have heard of, some of you may have not. Number one is Jersey, which is connected in a self-governing way to the United Kingdom. So Jersey is about 45 square miles, one of the Channel Islands. And while they don't have a tax exemption per se, they do have basically a flat tax where you go and you pay £145,000 per year to live there. And you get a lot of the benefits that you would get in New Zealand. Now, obviously, this is a much smaller island than even New Zealand, but you're an hour away from London, you're close to Paris, and you've got a very tranquil lifestyle, super safe, English speaking, pretty affluent population. Great schools, great hospitals. We were working on this as an option for someone recently. It's very interesting if you just want a laid-back lifestyle, if you want to buy a beautiful manor home, you want gardens, you want greenery. Jersey offers that. And so you can control your tax exposure. If you're a high net worth individual, you can pay basically a flat tax for all intents and purposes. You can buy a property there. And if you spend time there, you can eventually become a UK citizen, which is a bit stronger passport than New Zealand, pretty similar, a little bit stronger. That's one option. Option number 2, not so far away, Gibraltar. If you don't want to spend so much money on tax, Gibraltar has an option where you can pay right around £30,000 a year, or in some limited cases, for some investors, even 0 in tax every year. And so again, you can structure that with proper planning to be a flat tax. Again, while Gibraltar is obviously at the tip of Spain, close to Northern Africa, a little bit different vibe than a Jersey. It still has that UK connection. Obviously a very small place to live, but if you're looking for something that's a bit more affordable than Jersey, you have a lot of the same benefits, but a lower tax price tag and a lower price tag for living. Those are places that speak English, great rule of law, common law systems, a lot of the benefits in my mind that New Zealand has. Now, obviously, they're closer to some of the other stuff. 1 hour to London could be a benefit, could be a drawback. For me, as someone who's traveling, who wants to be in different places, New Zealand's a bit further away, so Jersey or Gibraltar makes sense. Let's talk about a place that is also further away, that offers not an Anglo environment, but a Francophone environment, but also very nice, which is Mauritius. I had the privilege to spend some time in Mauritius recently. Very interesting place. You have a lot of the greenery, a bit more tropical than in New Zealand, but you're on an island far off the coast of continental Africa. And so not only does Mauritius offer being far away from it all, they offer really great rule of law, pretty safe place. Some people call it the Singapore of the region. They say it's run, somewhat the same way in terms of maintaining safety. But they've got great tax advantages. You can pay very little amounts of tax, depending on whether you move your company to Mauritius, depending on whether you have a company somewhere else. You can pay anywhere as low as 3% tax. On top of that, if you buy real estate to the tune of about $500,000, and in some cases even less in Mauritius, depending on what you're looking for, you can buy certain types of real estate that are designed for foreigners. They're not as overpriced as you might expect in some cases. You can find some deals. And in as little as 2 years, if you play your cards right, you could become a citizen of Mauritius. The process probably takes longer than that in reality, but 2 years is a great starting point. And Mauritius has a great passport that not only gives you access to the UK and the European Union, but also Russia and China. It's an independent country, and so therefore they have a passport that gives you access to a lot of different places that you wouldn't get with one of the Anglo world passports. And so if you're looking for a place where you can be totally off the radar, totally away from the rest of it all, but also be part of a country that has very good relations with pretty much everyone in the world, then Mauritius, I think, fits that bill. Number 4, also of interest, that I think a lot of folks probably don't consider, is Uruguay. South America obviously has its basket cases. It has its emotional governments that seem to change more often than you change your underwear. But Uruguay has been, I think, really a bastion of stability. It's been a well-run place. It has a certain banking industry. They call it the Switzerland of South America. It is relatively safe. It's a place that is probably not on a lot of people's radar. It is not perhaps the most exciting place in the world. That would perhaps be Buenos Aires nearby. But if you're looking as an alternative to a place like Auckland, you certainly are further away. You're in the southern hemisphere. Now, you're not on an island. You're on mainland South America, but you're able to go different places. If you want to go and make investments in other places in South America, I'm excited about Colombia right now as an up-and-coming economy, for example. You have access to that. You're a bit closer to the rest of the world, and they also have a tax exemption that you can take advantage of. Getting residence in Uruguay is relatively easy, so if you're looking to preserve cash, if you have liquidity issues, you don't really need that much cash. Unlike New Zealand, you don't need a lot of cash to get into Uruguay, and you'll have a lower cost of living, and you can get citizenship potentially faster than you could in New Zealand. Great passport to have. Number 5 is Singapore. Now, we've heard of Singapore, and for a lot of people I say, let's look for the next Singapore. I'm always looking for the next big thing because Singapore is now an expensive place to get into. It's hard to get permanent residence. It's really hard to get citizenship. We have several really successful people. One guy who runs a business, another gentleman who's selling his business in Singapore. And the big question we keep talking about is, are you going to get PR? Because they've lived there for a long time. They've created a lot of value for the country, paid a good deal of taxes. And Singapore just doesn't really need more people. They don't need more money. They're pretty well established. But if we're comparing it to New Zealand, I still think that the permanent residence pathway through investment in Singapore is perhaps more attractive than that of New Zealand. Citizenship may be not the easiest to come by anymore. You're 5 to 10 years too late on that one. But in terms of quality of life, in terms of social fabric, in terms of cohesion of society and everything just working, I'll put Singapore up against New Zealand any day. You're obviously much closer. If you're looking to go anywhere in Asia where there's a lot of investing opportunities, if you're looking to go to Dubai, to Europe, you're just closer to a lot of places in the world. And so while Singapore obviously is a bit more tropical, it's certainly much more dense. I think that for someone looking for a rule of law country that's very well managed, Singapore goes up well against New Zealand any day. And all those countries could theoretically be gotten into for a lower price tag and with less hassle than New Zealand. We've helped the occasional person with their New Zealand strategy, but what I would encourage anyone to do is look at all the alternatives. All too often, I think certain countries get promoted in the media or promoted in certain circles as the place to be, whether it's Estonia for online entrepreneurs, whether it's Paraguay for fast, easy, cheap citizenship, and sometimes it's New Zealand for really successful people who have made it, who want to settle down a little bit, who want a great country to live in and just relax. I think that there are alternatives that are worth considering as well. How can Nomad Capitalist help you? 4 ways. Number 1, subscribe to our channel and click the notification bell to make sure you get our new video every day. Number 2, get a copy of Nomad Capitalist, the book. You'll learn a lot of my personal experiences over a dozen years of studying this stuff, as well as exactly some of the strategies that you can use to build your Nomad Capitalist plan. Number 3, if you're not sure where to start, but you want to come and learn from my team and I, you want to come and mingle with like-minded people, learn more about our live conference, Nomad Capitalist Live. It's coming up soon. And number 4, if you want some help right now because you've got a burning issue, you need something solved, you want to lower your taxes, get a second passport, or build the Nomad Capitalist lifestyle of your dreams, go to nomadcapitalist.com and click on Become a Client.